Hello and welcome to MRAD. Today I'm going to be working on my own personal 1022. I'm going to be installing a 15 MOA rail. I've already took off the old one, but I'm going to have to bed this rail. As you can see on the second camera, the whatever solvents over a year and a half have eaten away the coating on the top of the receiver, making it an uneven surface. And if I place the new rail on it, it rocks a tiny bit. And if you tighten down the rail, it'll twist it a tiny bit, and all little tiny bits end up to a big error downrange. So we're going to get rid of the error here on the rail. So the rail is coated in a release agent. This is shoe wax. So the JB weld I'm going to use is not going to stick to the receiver top, but it'll stick to the rail. So we have the rail here, which is a Tactile Solutions 15 MOA Picatinny rail for the 1022. They're nice and cheap, easy to get. You can see the bottom of it here. I've just scuffed it up a little bit, so it's not super shiny. And we're going to use this mounted on it. Now, so these only fit one way round. There's wider holes at the back than at the front. What we're going to do first though is we're just going to degrease this back surface here so we can put the JB weld on it so we can get a flat surface to work with. So just a little bit of blast and shine, or whatever you normally use for your degreasing. And we'll just clean this off, because we want this to be as clean and as free of any kind of oils as possible, so that the JB weld, when mixed, will stick to this and not the action with the release agent. A 15 MOA rail, when it's installed, will give you about 5 or 4.8 mil in elevation, which is going to be handy. When I'm 0 to 100, I have about 4 mil left to dial before I'm topped out. So this will give me a good 16 MOA at the end of the day, which would be really nice for long range. And then we have whatever indents we have on our reticle to go even farther. So now this is dried. You can see it's all clean, and you can see the scuff marks on it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to just mix up our JB weld here. You can see it on the clean surface. This will take 2 seconds. So I'm just going to use any clean stick will do, popsicle stick, as long as it doesn't contaminate either of the compounds. It should be fine. So I'm just using the end of the Q-tip, nice and clean. I'm going to just mix the two of these up until they turn grey. I'm going to start off with a light grey and a black, and we want a very even grey. Now we're not going to use a whole lot of this, and when you're mixing the JB weld, you can see it's starting to turn grey there now. We want to squirt it out in even quantities. So if you're going to use ½ inch line of the metal compound, you need ½ inch of the epoxy. And when they mix together, they start to go off. This particular JB weld takes a long time to go off. I think it's more or less 24 hours, but if you leave it somewhere warm, it will take 4 or 5 hours, much quicker. But I like this for most work on my 1022. There's not a whole lot of impact. So there we go. We can see this is all mixed up now. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply it to the bottom of the rail, just a little bit, because when this is squeezed out, there's such little amount in there in the gap that's given the problem. It'll squeeze it out on the two sides, and we don't want it to go everywhere. So we're just going to put a little bit in the middle, kind of just fan it out. It'll squeeze itself out towards the edges. We don't have to worry about that. So we're going to put this on here just like that, and maybe in between the screw holes as well. That might even be too much, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So when we're doing this, when we're putting it on, we're going to, I'm a believer in the no stress bedding routine, where you don't clamp things down fully or don't torque things down fully, because you want to be able to repeat the amount of pressure you do on it next time. So we put in 2 end action screws just to hold it in once we get this compound on here. It doesn't have to be pretty, but it does have to be covering enough of the surface. When you're putting the release agent on the top of the action, it's good to do the whole top of the action, so the spillover doesn't stick to it. The cheap release agent is a turtle wax shoe polish, I think it's called. I use it on my bigger rifles for when I'm bedding them in stocks, and I've never had an action stick in a stock yet. Okay, now this doesn't have to be like a perfectly plastered finish, it just has to be more or less thin coating everywhere, so you can see that. What we're going to do now is just clean off the little section, a little area around the holes with a Q-tip. Just make sure we don't push any down into the action. We tighten it. So we're going to not tighten down, but we're going to push down 2 action screws to hold it in place so it centers, and we're going to use the middle 2 just to put into the holes so that it doesn't fill with JB weld, and you'd have to tap it back out. So you can see there now it's clean around the 2 holes, or 4 holes. So we're going to get our screws here. Oh, if I knew where I left my screws. Okay, now that we've found our action screws, we'll take a quick look at them here. You can see that the top of them is angled, so that when it's screwed down, it'll center the rail over the hole, which is very handy for what we want. The other rail I had didn't have that, it was just flat, normal screws. I'd prefer these to be Trox keys if possible, but flathead screws will do the job perfectly. So you can see the release compound on this. I'm not sure, can you see that I leave fingerprints behind when I touch it, but it just means there's a light coating. You don't want big globs of it or anything like that. So we're going to just line it up over the holes, just like that. I'm going to drop in an action screw. I'm going to use the first one and the last one just to hold it in place. So just tightening that down a little bit will cause it to center. You can feel it just as you're pushing down. You can feel it starting to push the JB weld out. That's what you want. It's pushing all the air bubbles out. We're going to push in the last screw here as well. So we're going to go down. It's centered. And it's just, might see some seeping out now in a second. We're not twisting hard. Now you can just see it seeping out the back of the rail there. That's what we want to see. Just out there. So we're not going to, just in here. It's coming out the edges too, which means it's getting a good solid push all the way down. And just so it doesn't go into the action holes. So just in case there's any JB weld in the action screws, there doesn't seem to be. Just going to put a little bit of oil just onto the thread because it won't stick to oil. And make a nice easy screw to take out later on. We're going to go down. These ones are just going to be down. They're not going to be pushing any pressure. Just enough to help with centering. There we go. And the last screw, just a drop of oil. Drop it in the hole. And nice and clean. There's no JB weld in there. I'm just going to screw it in just so it helps with the load and center it. There we go. So these middle two aren't very tight. The forwards and the back are a little bit tighter, but nowhere near as torqued as they should be. You can easily twist them with 2 fingers. Okay. That's perfect. So what you should see is an even line of JB weld being pushed out from underneath the rail on all sides. And that seems to be what we have. So what we're going to do is we're just going to use a little bit of oil on a earbud, cotton swab, whatever you want to call them. We're just going to take any of this excess stuff off. It's easier to take off now than to leave it later on when it's harder. Good to go. So I can leave this rail here all night, or I can leave it in somewhere warmer. It's quite cold out here, and it'll be done in like a few hours. Since you're doing a bedding, it's best to leave it for it to go completely solid, just because you don't want to pull it off and then have it not stick correctly to the bottom of the rail. You have to undo. You end up undoing all your work and starting again. So to give a quick rundown, I took the flat rail off. I put the new Tactile Solution rail on 15 MOA, so it's slanting down, causing you to lift your gun higher to take your shot, allowing you to dial more elevation. It'll give 15 MOA will give me 4.8 mils, so I'll have a total of 16 or maybe 17 mils altogether, extra elevation, which would be brilliant for getting out to about 500 meters if I could. I'd love to get a 1022 to plink some steel out at 500, but it has the ability. I don't know, do I? So we're just going to leave this for a little while, and we're going to take a check on it we're going to check on it tomorrow morning. It won't be tomorrow morning for you in the video. Okay, it's the next day. The JB weld is hardened underneath the rail, and I took it off earlier just to make sure. It came off pretty easy. It was stuck a little bit harder than I thought, but it wasn't too hard to get off. I was very surprised to see what contact areas there actually was, and there's a lot less contact between the rail and the action than I even assumed with a nice machined rail like this. So let's take this off here. You can see it. So last night I tightened the first rail and the back rail pretty much, not to where they should be, but so the action would be down in contact with the rail. But then I left the other two in and tightened them a little bit, nothing major. And you can see the JB weld here on the bottom of the rail. It's all spread out nice. Now I haven't cracked any off the sides or any, but what I will notice is there's contact along most of the side rails, and up here had perfect contact, and a little back here in the back corner. So there's a lot of the rail when it was on my receiver that did not have full contact. It had great contact up here as well. So there's only 4 points of real good contact, but most of the rail is actually floating.
So now with the JB weld on there, you're probably up in the 80% contact with the receiver. Now there's no big kick out of a 1022, or the bolt doesn't slam hard enough to cause it to jump. But it's nice to know that it's as good as it's going to get. Every little error you have will add up with another error and cause bigger problems down the field. So we're going to just mount this, and we're going to try it out. And I'm going to record the impact. 15 MOA will make it 100, and then I'm going to show you how many mils of a difference it makes on a 1022. Obviously it's going to be different on every gun, because a 15 or a 20 MOA rail would be different on say a 223 at 100, as a 223 flies much flatter than lobbing a 22 long rifle out there. But I'm very happy with this. I'm very surprised with how little surface contact it was with just a standard rail, but as I said, that probably was because, as you can see on the top of my receiver, the solvents had eaten through the coating which was on the 1022 receiver, and caused an uneven surface. So I got rid of the flaking material, sanded it down a little bit, really light sandpaper. I think it was 800 grit or higher, and then we did the bedding job. I'm very happy with it. I think it's going to do exactly what I want. So thanks for watching. If you like my videos, you can comment, subscribe, ask me any questions you want. I'll try and get back to you straight away if I can, unless it's in the middle of the night or something. So give us a like and subscribe below if you want to. Thanks. Bye now.